Hello, 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 everybody. This is Maria Fleming from Senior Resource Network, when you need a trusted local professional. Today, we are super excited to talk to our guests here about the Silver Tsunami. Some of the events we'll talk about is senior advocacy, senior home solution, and the importance of insurance, financial planning, and life experiences. So today we'll talk to, and we'll introduce John Kittner from Edward Jones. John, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, well, like you said, my name's John Kittner. I've been a financial advisor with Edward Jones for I think almost 5 years now. I love doing what I do. The majority of what we do is with retirees, so that's kind of how that ties well into this. We help everybody with individual financial planning. We help with estate planning and tax planning. I have a huge passion for tax planning. So it works really well with helping seniors kind of prepare for their retirement and their estate plan and things like that.
Do you feel like that being able to talk to people in their 30s and 40s before they get into the Silver Tsunami, is that something that you encourage your demographic?
You know, it's tough to convince a 30 or a 40-year-old to think about when they're 70, but absolutely, if it can be done, I always try to encourage it.
Right. And so we're in the same BNI group, and there's something that you always say. This is the favorite time of the year.
Yes.
What is it that you say?
It's the most wonderful time of the year, and if you're a little less experienced, then you might think that's Christmas, right? Which I get it. Second most wonderful time of the year. The most wonderful time of the year, however, is tax season, which is coming up. So Edward Jones is really busy right now. Most advisors are busy right now with tax planning. So between now and about year end, we go through a lot of preparing our tax return before December 31st happens. And there's really nothing that we can do about it anymore. We just hand our papers to our tax guy, and he spits out a tax return. Before that point, there's a lot of changes that we can make to your taxes, kind of influencing maybe long-term capital gains and losses, or we can change things like Roth conversions or something like that. So we try to make a lot of changes to clients' tax returns before it's kind of too late at year end. And then obviously next year, there's a lot of deadlines that happen in terms of March or April, depending on which side of the bed the government woke up on that morning, for like a contribution deadline, maybe to an IRA or to a 529 or something like that. 529s are year end, but yeah. So this is our busy season for sure.
Wow, and so I'm very glad and excited that you're here with us today, because I know this isn't, like you said, this is a very busy time for you. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
And we'll be coming back around talking about some more, tips and tricks for our seniors. And so I'd like to introduce Dania. Dania, this is your second time on show with me, and so I believe that there was more that we needed to share with our senior community. So Dania Hester from Senior Home Solution.
Yes, hi everyone. Like Maria said, I'm from Senior Home Solutions. What I do is I am a certified senior transition specialist, and what I do is I help seniors transition from out of their home into long-term care, helping them and their families being able to gain access to the funds needed to be able to get that long-term care a lot sooner when they actually need it, instead of later when it's too late. Because a lot of times, as human beings, we like to procrastinate and put things off. And then also when we do realize that we need to help our mom or our dad get into long-term care, like assisted living or a nursing home, it typically takes 30 to 45 days once an agent is able to get an accepted offer on mom or dad's house. So we go in and we try to help them by purchasing a home, and they can get access to the funds within 1 or 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So it's a lot faster. And then we also go in and we help the families, instead of them having to take on the burden of the stress and the financials of dealing with all of mom and dad's stuff that's inside the house. A lot of times families don't know what to do with all the collection of things that they get over the years. It could be overwhelming. So our company, what we do is we just let them know, hey, we eat the cost on the back end. with our company. Don't worry about it. Take this time with your family, because mom and dad is who needs your attention right now. You don't need to be giving all your attention to everything that's inside the house. So we use that vehicle of real estate investing to be able to help the seniors. We actually been using the vehicle of real estate investing for quite a while now, since actually 2017. We've been doing real estate investing, but Senior Home Solutions is a newbie to our team, just because our experience led us to this need, and it's become such a joy in our heart to be able to help the seniors, and we just realized, okay, we need to especially help them. I know that there is a community like Senior Resource Network that is out helping the seniors as well, but I wish it was a little bit more, maybe other investors that had that compassion and that heart for them to just slow down a little bit, help them out, listen to them, see how we can be able to provide resources for them, and just help them out where they need it. Even if you don't make a dime, help them any way that you can. And that's where our company come in at. We really help them out. We just actually helped another family as of yesterday, and we didn't make a dime on it. And this person wasn't necessarily a senior, but was able to give them the right proper information with their lender.
Okay.
And was able to help them save their home from out of pre-foreclosure. And now he just said, I can sleep better tonight. I can rest peaceful. And I think I have a friend for life. So things like that is rewarding, and you don't always have to get paid. Just lead with your heart.
Right.
So not sure whether that was too much, guys, but
No, I think that was wonderful.
Yeah,
that was
so-
wonderful. But you did mention, we had a conversation not too long ago. You did mention that there was on the horizon possibly, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but possibly giving an opportunity for seniors to have housing, affordable housing. How does that look like so far, or you're just in the beginning stages?
we still are at the beginning stages. But we have some great things that is going to be coming forth. So we're going to be, we're working right now to create housing for them that they desire to be in. You want, them to feel comfortable. So whether it's going to be, we're still working out some kinks. So trying to get some housing that they like, and if they do have to go to an establishment as we know it, we want it to be more favorable to what they want, and not what someone else feels like, oh, this is sterile. No one never wants to go into a sterile situation or feel like they're in a medical facility.
Right.
There's no place like home, right?
Right.
So we want them to feel like they're at home. So we got some things that's in the pot that we're working
in the
on, but
works.
it's still a little bit too early to give some more details on that, but it's soon to come.
All right, you guys, stay tuned. We are going to talk about that on part 3. And so let's talk to Jamie Potter from Backstrom Insurance Group.
Yes.
Very excited about her being on. She is my insurance agent for my business, and I enjoy having all the benefits that her company has to offer. So tell us a little bit about your business and what you specialize in.
Well, we do everything but health insurance. So I can do your home insurance, auto insurance, business insurance, life insurance. We love helping people understand what their coverages are supposed to be. I can't tell you how often I hear, well, I'm not switching because I have a $100 deductible. But they're driving around with very minimal coverage and they don't even know it. It could be minimal coverage for the other people. It could be minimal coverage for their medical needs. And so what John and I like doing is just going in and really diving into the policy and getting to know the clients and figuring out, what coverages do they need to stop them. Nobody wants to have insurance until their house catches on fire, until they get in that car accident, or they find, whatever lawsuit coming. So we like to make sure that they're all around protected, affordably. Insurance can get really expensive. The more you add, the more expensive it can be, but we can really dive deep and find ways to get you really good insurance at an affordable rate.
Nice. You would, in the green room, you talked about an umbrella. What's that? The umbrella policy.
An umbrella is an extra $1 million of liability that follows you around. It follows you if you cause a car accident. It follows you if the mailman slips in your driveway and gets hurt, or your dog bites someone. It follows you if you go to Mexico and rent a car. And your auto insurance doesn't leave the country, but your liability insurance does. Your umbrella insurance leaves the country. I think the best example I saw was if you are on the golf course and you swing that ball and you didn't yell for and you knock someone out and now they want to sue you. The umbrella would cover you out there. It follows you literally everywhere you go, and it starts at like $70 a year. So the other thing it does, if somebody without insurance hits you, you can add coverage on to add that extra $1 million onto you for those uninsured motorist coverage.
Oh.
And with the Indiana state minimums being $25,000 for medical, it doesn't cover much. So you could essentially back it with an extra $1 million.
And it sounds like a very little,
Yeah.
very minute.
I think mine is $120 a year, and I have both ends of the coverage where we're covered for the liability portion and the uninsured motorists.
That's fantastic. I didn't know you had to yell for. You have to yell for?
I mean, you get a good enough lawyer. Anything is possible.
I didn't hear him say for.
Yep.
So thank you so much, and we'll be back around talk a little bit more about your business.
All right.
And so I would like to introduce Marlene Lowe. She's a senior advocate. Also, she has a story to tell about an experience that she had with her mom and her dad, and what to look for as our parents age. Things that I didn't even know about. Even in the green room, we talked about it, and we talked about it offset and on the phone a little bit about that. So, Marlene, share with us your story.
Well, my name is Marlene. I recently had both my parents die 19 days apart, and I just didn't really like the way that they were treated in death. I really am an advocate for people, especially this generation right now that is in the position that they're in. These people have worked a long time on the earth. They were brought up differently than we are being brought up, than the younger generation is being brought up. They've worked hard. They deserve respect. They deserve dignity.
Right.
They deserve to be treated with kindness and fairness, and that's just not happening. And I don't like what I see. And I've had several incidences that have just not been pleasant incidences that occurred with them. And so for me, it's just kind of turned me into an activist to just try to help people, tell them, this is what you need to do to medically advocate for them. This is what you need to do to legally advocate for them.
Right.
Have all your ducks in a row. If your loved one ends up in the hospital, do not, under any circumstances, leave their side. Have an iPad with you. Have a computer with you. If you don't understand what they're saying, write it down. Look it up online. Look it up at Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, whatever. Find out what's going on, what kind of medications they're giving them. Find out what the side effects are. Don't leave their side, because you don't know what can happen when you leave their side. Because even sometimes when you're doing all you can do to medically advocate for them, things can even happen right in front of your eyes.
Right.
That will blow your mind.
Like, what do you mean by that? Like, what happened?
Well, I can show you if we have the time for that, but, I don't know if we have the time for that, but, well, I can show you a quick example. This is my mother, who is supposed to be given oxygen in a local facility. This is my mother. This is her happy the night before. This is my mother laying there, who's supposed to be given oxygen. And as we can see, these are the oxygen tanks. Nothing. They're not on. This is the bubble. It shows you right here. Nothing. It's not on. So we, as people who love our elderly people, have to be willing to advocate for them, have to be willing to fight for them. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. And they may tell you one thing, but something else will happen. And so you have to be willing not to leave their side. You have to be willing to be there. You have to be willing to ensure that they're getting everything medically that they need. And then also legally as well.
So you had talked about the health, is it the HIPAA documents? What type of documents do you use to cover, to advocate for them and to cover your...
Well, there's several things that you can do. I think the most important thing that you really need to have in place is, number one, I would say, definitely, talk to your attorney about these things. But, you need to have all your ducks put in a row legally. But make sure that you have not just a power of attorney, but a durable power of attorney, which covers real estate, which covers being able to speak to their insurance company on their behalf if they're not able to do that. And make sure you have a HIPAA rights form on them, because if they die, the HIPAA rights form never dies.
Wow.
But your durable power of attorney dies the day they die, so you no longer have any rights under your durable power of attorney. But you have the rights under your HIPAA rights to go if you need to get medical forms for them, or if you need a piece of information that might have to do with your family bloodline or whatever. So that's really important going forward with perhaps your family or your children or whatever. If you need some medical information and you have that HIPAA right form, then you're entitled to that information, because your HIPAA rights will never die, but the durable power of attorney dies upon the death of your loved one.
So where do you get the forms? If you can't afford an attorney, can you go to, like, say, Notre Dame? They've got a legal...
They do have a department. However, I know from my own experience, they've always been very, very overwhelmed, but they can help. There's a couple of other resources in town that you can look up and find as well. Sometimes your local attorneys can be very kind and perhaps do some work on pro bono and part pay, which is very nice. There's also other options like LegalZoom, Legal Shield, stuff like that, where you can have your paperwork done. Sometimes you can go and just buy a packet and have it done. As long as everything is done and everything is completely notarized.
Oh, notarized.
And
okay.
everything has to be witnessed by an outside person outside the family, then it becomes legal.
Okay.
So those are really important documents, not just a living will, but a living, power of attorney for medical. Make sure that, your attestation is signed by not just the people involved, but by somebody that is outside the family. All those things are really, really important to get, to protect your family member, because you just don't know when you might need them. I know. Right. I'm in the process right now, even at my age, my husband and I are like, we got to get our stuff together, because you just don't know.
Right.
We're not promised tomorrow.
That's true. That is so true. Thank you so much. We'll be back around to talk a little bit about, a little bit more about your experiences. But we'll go on to Rashid Fahim. And he is, we're going to talk about his life experiences and what got him to where he's at today as a successful professional. So introduce yourself, sir.
Thank you, Maria. Yeah, my name is Rashid Fahim. I went to Penn High School, graduated from Millikan University. Played football throughout my 8 years of both schools. Got out of college, went straight into car sales. Car sales is a great experience in terms of getting out of my comfort zone and having to talk to people that quite honestly didn't like talking to me.
Right.
When you're trying to sell a car, of course. And then from that transition, getting into the financial industry, and being able to help people not only my age and look like me, but also people that are a little bit older, maybe get to those next phases in life, like retirement, like potentially getting married, potentially, yeah.
Sure, sure. And so did you find the transition from going from car sales to your current position, did you find that transition easy? Did you find it challenging? How are you able to communicate with your clientele, being at your youth?
Selling a car is definitely different. Selling something that's very tangible. You can sell something that looks nice, feels good, which is very nice, makes somebody feel important on their way out of a transaction.
Mm-hmm.
Selling something that's going to be mentally stimulating when you go into the financial industry is very challenging because you have to put a lot of trust and knowledge into your client, make sure they're comfortable with that next step into their future.
So how do you find your client base? Do you just do a lot of marketing or
Everything
networking?
I do is word of mouth. So dealing with one client to the next, it's all making sure that I put enough value in them, they feel comfortable putting me in a position to talk to somebody else that they know, whether that's family or friends.
That's important.
Yeah.
That's important into making your clients feel comfortable and safe in order to share their information with you. And I know with Senior Resource Network, we do an intake form, and so we're asking a lot of we're asking a lot of information that's going to lead us to be able to direct them to the right, the right professional, the right trusted local professional. And so Jamie here is is in our network of Senior Resource Network in our Mishawaka area, and so with her industry, we're able to reach out, and our focus is the property and casualty, and letting them know how important it is to not just take the state insurance, the state mandated insurance at $2,550, right?
Right.
$25,050, because vehicles today are more than $14,000. So if you have a collision and you're upside down on your vehicle, you can't get it replaced for for that small amount. Talk about replacement costs.
Well, on a house, the average that we seem to be running into right now is about $325 a square foot. 2 years ago, that was closer to $150. As far as cars go, I think my average claim is somewhere around 30,000, 40,000, somewhere in there. I know from not my personal experience, but a friend that 2 years ago he had to buy himself a bumper, and it cost him, I think he said $900, and now it's $1,600 when he had to buy another one this year. So just with inflation, everything is so much more expensive than it was even 2 years ago.
Right.
And so, I strongly urge if clients to review, if they are comfortable with their agent, review their coverages with them. If not, they need to find somebody who they are comfortable with, where they can do those annual reviews, because it does change so quickly.
Right, right. And I've heard many, many times like, oh, well, my insurance is so high. I've never had an accident. I've always paid my bill. So what's happened?
Just inflation. Inflation has happened so much. Everything is more expensive than it used to be. So, of course, insurance is going to have to go up because they need the money in the pot to pay the claims. And then on top of that, we've had, in the Midwest, there has actually been more insurance claim payouts than anywhere else in the country.
Why is that?
Just because we've had so many storms that go through. So Florida has their hurricanes, and it affects primarily Florida. California has their fires, and it affects primarily California. In our area, we're Ohio, Indiana, the whole Midwest region. We've had, just in March, we had a hailstorm. We had another one in July. I think I have 15 roofs going on right now, just from the hailstorm that came through in July. And then the car damage on top of it. And then we've had high winds, and so just all the changes in the climate have also played a big effect on insurance because we're paying out more claims than we've ever been paying out. And they're more expensive to fix. So not
Right.
only do we have more in quantity, we have the quality is a lot more.
So how does Backstrom Insurance Group pay out? Is it like a 30 days or
Backstrom Insurance Group does not pay out. We are representing several different carriers. So
Oh.
we are not an insurance company as far as like your Erie Insurance, your Progressive. We have several carriers that we represent, and they are the ones who carry the insurance.
Ah, I see.
So each company handles their claims a little bit different. Agents are not allowed to be involved in claims. So I will hold a client's hand through the claim, but they have claim professionals who are much better at that portion than I am. So
there was a funny, we talked about when you show up to events that you like to be.
I like to dress like Flo, just to be a little memorable. So Progressive is one of my companies that I represent. But yeah, I dress up like Flo. I say hi to everybody. I take selfies, and I get to know the vendors or the customers that are there shopping. And it's just, insurance agents, people dislike them from the get-go. So if you can just get a little win and make somebody smile.
Absolutely. That I love that. I love all
Thank
of
you.
that. So, Dania, we talked a little bit in the beginning of the conversation about maybe some custom packaging for clients. Talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so what we try to do is listen to the clients and see exactly what they need. I know I mentioned earlier, just by taking the time and listening to the seniors to find out what they need in that situation. Instead of just, sometimes it's not about us just buying their house, and doing things that way, but sometimes they may need help on the back end of things. So we try to create custom packages, like providing the services that they need inside their home, so they could be able to stay inside their home.
Oh.
So we try to provide those type of services for them so they can get the correct type of care provider. So we connect up with other professionals to be able to put those care providers inside their homes. So we get everything that they need. So we're trying to be like a little bit like a Walmart in a way,
Okay.
that one-stop shop. So it just, instead of them going everywhere, just like, okay, we're going to be that mediator for them. And so
Right.
creating that, by being that mediator, now we could be able to say, okay, we've listened, we took the notes, and now we can be able to develop that package that they need.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like that trusted professional that they could say, okay, I don't have to just keep on picking up the phone, talking to this person and that person. I can just sit here and get it all done.
Right.
And so now they have their care provider, and they can be able to get everything done. So, and they also have their shelter at the same time too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
having that shelter and having a care package together is very beneficial.
So, currently, how many rental homes do you have?
We have, downsized quite a bit, but now we have 3. We
Okay.
have 3 left.
And so, in one of those homes, am I understanding it correctly? You have traveling nurses.
Yes. We do not only just travel nurses, but any travel professionals. We have done contractors. Right now we have actually 4. Let me take that back. It goes up and down. But we have about 2 contractors right now. One time our first contractor we ever had was a pipe fitter.
Okay.
And never knew about that part of the industry, because we just know plumbers, just regular plumbers. But that's a whole nother
It offends them.
industry, right? Yes, it does. I've learned, like, that's a whole nother world. So yeah, different travel professionals that come through, we try to give them a nice home, very similar to an Airbnb, but a lot more affordable. So they have everything that they need. And that's another love of mine, because I'm just into hospitality, just
Yes.
serving. So I just love to serve, see what people need, and that is it's so nice to be able to meet people from all over, and learn about their industry, what they do, and also learning about the nurses and the different things, professions within the medical industry as well. They work a lot of hours.
Yeah.
They work a lot of hours, and so the last thing they want to have to worry about is coming home to a place that is loud and noisy, not clean, not warm. So we just try to make sure all those things are taken care of, and we also make sure every property that we use, they always have a desk and internet.
Oh, nice.
They also need to study. A lot of times they're studying, so and taking classes a lot of times. So we try to put ourselves in their shoes to give them the things that they need. So, yeah.
That's great. I love that. John, you're young. How did you get where you're at today?
That's a great question. I graduated from Taylor University. My dad actually worked with Edward Jones, so he had an Edward Jones advisor in Mishawaka. His Edward Jones advisor at one point heard that I was 15 and got my first job at Dairy Queen. And so he gave my dad the brilliant advice that now that John has earned income, he's actually eligible to put money into a Roth IRA.
Oh, okay.
So a Roth IRA, for those of you who don't know, it's something that you can put money into. It gets to grow tax-free, and then someday you get to take the money out to help with retirement. And when you take the money out after it's grown and been invested, you actually get to remove it without paying taxes on it.
Right.
So it's a
Oh,
really, really
wonderful.
powerful wealth building tool. But the earlier you start, the better.
Sure.
So at 15, obviously there's not too much earlier you can start. The requirement to be able to put into it is just to have earned income. So like a 5-year-old can't put into it, but a 15-year-old who just made $2,000 over the summer at Dairy Queen can. So my dad actually told me as an incentive, because he knew I was going to go blow it on the movies and hanging out with friends and stuff that a 15-year-old does. And he said, whatever money that you can come up with from this $2,000 that you made this summer, if you put it into a Roth IRA at Edward Jones, I'll go ahead and I'll match it, right? So I think
Wow.
I put together maybe $200. I put it in there. My dad put his own $200 in there, and so I had $400 in a Roth IRA. I did this through high school and college. I graduated with a pretty sizable amount in a Roth IRA that now gets to continue to grow and kind of help with retirement someday. But that kind of started an enjoyment of, learning some of these things that most people don't know. I mean, there's lots of people in their 30s and 40s and 50s that don't know what a Roth IRA is. So that's a little bit of where the passion kind of came from for financial literacy and to help people. I mean, lots of people think that they're almost like loopholes, like the rich have these loopholes and the little man just can't get ahead. And you really this advice is available to everyone,
Wow.
Go knock on an Edward Jones office door and ask them what a Roth IRA is. We'd love to help you with that. You know what I mean?
So what's the difference between starting a Roth IRA at a bank versus starting it at Edward Jones?
Yeah, from a tax perspective, there's very little. So the tax rules for both, just a Roth IRA is a Roth IRA is a Roth IRA.
Okay.
Where you start a Roth IRA, it's a little bit back to what we were saying across the table, where from a sales perspective, it's one thing to kind of sell a car or maybe a knife set or something like that. But what we try to help people with is I want a retiree or a client to kind of trust me with their whole financial life. So financial planning goes beyond a Roth IRA or selling an annuity or a life insurance policy or something like that. We need to see their whole financial life, and we need to make recommendations based on that. So I won't talk poorly about a bank. Lots of banks do a great job with this.
Sure.
But there's shortcuts in every industry, right? And there's ways that I can save money on my insurance by getting pretty poor insurance online. There's ways I can save money by not hiring a trusted local professional financial advisor, by going online, and there are robo-advisors, there's online brokerage that make it really cheap to do what we do, right? So the cost that comes with our profession obviously kind of brings with it a standard of expertise and knowledge and advice that you're just kind of not going to get in other places.
Right, you're not going to get the kid gloves. Being
Yep.
able to communicate all those. And the other thing is that they'll be able to see you face to face
Sure.
versus having to type it in
Yeah.
and saying, Google what is
Yeah.
dot.
We heard across the table as well, just the stuff that's going on with seniors right now. There's a lot of things that have changed with that in the last 10 or 20 years. And one of the things that I've noticed personally is the fraud and the scams and things like that happen with seniors now is way more prevalent than it was 20 years ago. I mean, if you hear
Yeah.
of an 80-year-old and you ask them, were they getting called by the IRS asking for them to pay their tax balance with Target gift cards? They weren't, right? This has become so much more prevalent, right? Like scams are just all over the place. As technology develops, so do they. But that's one of the reasons that it's really important to have a all three of these words are important, trusted local professional to kind of help you through stuff like that, right? So if you, in my scenario, if you went with the discount online brokerage and somebody wants to call on and pretend to be you and try to make a transaction on your behalf, they're just connected with a representative, right? That sometimes they're stateside, sometimes they're not, but they don't know you, right? So it's very difficult for them to protect your identity and your information. When my clients call my office, my assistant and I, we know all of them. We know them, we know their kids, right?
Right.
So when somebody calls me and pretends to be Maria and says that they'd like to make a transaction on their behalf, no. We know Maria. You're not Maria, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of value in having a trusted local professional kind of in your corner to prevent some of that stuff.
That's fantastic.
Now, I'm going to add something to that. I know my mom had that issue a lot of times, and we developed a little system for that. When my mom would get calls like that, she would tell them, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to put my daughter on the phone. She's my durable power of attorney." And then she would put me on, and I would deal with them, and they usually didn't like my answer very well.
Right.
So,
Right. And so, thank goodness she had you there. But there are a lot of seniors who don't have somebody to advocate for them. And as local trusted professionals here, and more like us, outside of Senior Resource Network, being able to reach out to those seniors and their families, and that generational commitment to educate, to be able to focus on their needs and their families' needs too is so important. That hierarchy or generational aspect of it, and so. What did a little bit about your family background? What got you to where you're at today? Like, what is it that brought you?
So actually, family-wise, that's why I got into car sales. I actually had a previous teammate from college get into the financial realm first, and we had a similar meeting. He was talking about my financial future. And I'm like, wow, you got a really cool job. You get to spend your time how you want. You get to help people all the time. I found it very interesting, and luckily, there was room for me in Indiana. He's actually located in Chicago, and I found comfort in Macaulay Hill. We had many conversations with my managing partner, and I found that servicing people that not only can I help people with their mindset change, but maybe behavior, maybe spend less on maybe it's out to eat or cigarettes, whatever that vice might be, to maybe save for something that's maybe important for their future or somebody else that might be dependent on them, whether it's kids or a family member. So I found that very beneficial, and also being able to communicate conversations like this in a very respected space that it almost becomes addicting.
Right. So I find that being able to network is so beneficial for not only myself, but we all hear of, okay, so maybe this person might need this or this person might need that, and collectively just joining into that pot of goodness, being able to share with that wealth of knowledge, and that's something that we need. We're helping our youth, and we had a conversation outside of in the lobby with another lady that had just had her show just before ours, and that we're struggling with our youth, being able to connect our youth. And how do you guys see that generational gap between our youth and our seniors?
Ooh, that's a good question. The best way I can answer that, I think, is putting yourself in difficult situations to obtain the knowledge. So I know we talked about BNI earlier. I was in that group as well during car sales, but being able to speak in front of people about what you do, helps build relationships so people like, know, and trust you. So
Yes.
being able to get in those situations earlier on in your younger days is better for any young professional who might be scared to reach out and obtain knowledge from somebody that's older than them that may feel like, oh, like, I'm no good to them, like, why would they talk to me? It's just putting yourself in awkward situations to eventually get better.
That's fantastic. And so one of the things that I'm learning as a growing professional is to work on three things: your mindset, your motivation, and your methods. And so as professionals, we always have to upgrade our methods, because what we did back then isn't going to get us to where we want to go. It can only get us to where we are today, and upgrading our methods, our skill set or mindset and motivation all continuously worked in tandem, being able to get to that next level. How do you feel? So are you retired, Marlene, or are you?
No, not really.
So you work for a company that advocates for seniors. Is
Right.
that correct?
I actually work for a caregiver company, and I really enjoy doing that. I have found that there's a lot. It's very rewarding.
Yeah.
It's very rewarding. They still have so much wisdom and so much knowledge to pass on, even to older folks, younger children, that sort of thing. And I do feel like, you know, if you have people, if you have loved ones and you have caregivers going into their home and stuff like that, you need to be doing spot checks on them and making sure that they're being faithful at their job and making sure they're following through and that sort of thing, making sure they're really taken care of. And one of the things I did with my parents was I had cameras in their home, and it was quite amazing some of the things I saw. We had a couple of incidences that were not very pretty incidences, and I was able to nip them in the bud pretty quick. And we had one particular person that went to bed in my mother's bed, and we had another particular person that stole something, and you know, things like that. That, you know, and they all knew up front that there were cameras, and so it wasn't like it was a secret. They weren't hidden, you know, or anything like that. Everything was on the up and up. But even with that, the gall, you know, to do what was done when they knew they were on camera at all times.
Right.
You know, so yeah, I mean, I think stuff like that was really important steps that we took to protect them and that sort of thing. And I know that that's something that I really have been challenged by working with elderly people and learning everything I've learned. And I am looking forward to learning more and more and doing more and more and getting more and more involved, because I think that's really where I'm probably going to be heading at this point in my life.
Oh, nice.
Just because I just feel really called to that, you know.
And so, in your position, are you an admin, or are you? What position do you hold?
Caregiver.
Okay.
Going in and just caring for somebody, making sure their needs are met. And another thing that I will do is actually go to the doctor's office with them.
Okay.
And help them understand what the doctor is saying to them, what their meds are, what this particular medication does for them, what that particular medication does, ensuring perhaps that they follow through on testing or whatever that they need to have done, making sure they keep their appointments, that sort of thing. But I think that's really important as well. You know, a lot of times they go to the doctor's offices and it just goes right over their head. They have no clue.
And do you have to sign like waivers to use your own car, or do you use like the company car? Or
I usually use my own car, and I do carry insurance. I do carry a good amount of insurance to make sure that, you know, whoever I'm ever taking anywhere, they are protected. So yeah, you do have to do that. You have to keep it up to date. You do have to keep things like your tuberculosis shots and that sort of thing up to date, that you're free of that. And you know, you have to make sure that you're healthy as much as possible, that you're not going into their home sick or anything like that.
So would you say that the company that you work for, is it considered a personal home health care or a
It's
medical?
a home and community-based services program through Rural Services.
Oh, okay. Okay. And so are they Medicaid waiver?
They can be, or they can be personal pay as well.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's fantastic. That's great. And do you think that maybe in the future ever you might open up your own agency?
I haven't really thought that far ahead, I guess. Guess I haven't thought about it.
Right. Well, maybe someday.
I mean, I have run a $24 million corporation, so I mean, that thought it just hasn't crossed my mind yet. Haven't gotten that far. I mean, just dealing, I think, with everything I just finished dealing with. I'm just now kind of getting to the point where, I've gone through the grief aspect and dealing with the whole situation with everything that we had to deal with afterwards and everything and the healing process. I'm just kind of like weighing all my odds at this point as to where I can head to next.
Thank you. I thank each and every one of you coming on. But before I go, I wanted to share what Senior Resource Network offers our clientele who, with the Affordable Connectivity Program, bridging the digital divide in our community. And so if you have any of the government-assisted programs, you participate in any of those programs, you could qualify for a tablet or a phone. So Senior Resource Network, when you need a trusted local professional, our network consists of medical, legal, financial, home and auto, and personal. So I want to thank each and every guest here for being on our television show, Senior Resource Network, When You Need a Trusted Local Professional, Silver Tsunami, preparing for the Silver Tsunami, Episode 7. Thank you so much. Have a great night.